one pillow might have 100,000 stitches, which takes a really long time.
You're listening to A Life Creative, real conversations with artists, designers, and other creatives about how they build, sustain, and evolve their careers. So we have a little bit of an update about our show. And for me, it's very, very sad because I started this podcast with my co-host, Marcy McGolrick, and it was her idea to begin it. But she is going to take a step back. That balance of running your own business, manufacturing in the United States, and balancing all the demands of a podcast, she decided to sort of step back. FYI, she is always welcome to come back on the show if she feels like trekking up to New York as she normally did, and interview anybody that she wants to interview. We're going to miss her very much.
No, I am. It's right. I feel the same way. It's been so much fun to kind of reconnect with you, Mel, and be able to interview all of like our friends and colleagues and people that we admire. And I wish if there was all the time in the world, I would definitely continue to do it. But once things started to get busy in the studio, I kind of realized it wasn't realistic anymore. Yeah, it does make me sad, and who knows what the future will bring. But I think for right now, I think it makes sense for me to kind of take a step back and just watch from afar.
But we will miss you. Oh no, I'm gonna cry. Okay.
Stephanie Housley is the founder and designer of Coral Tusk, the whimsically distinct textile brand she launched in 2007 while still working full-time as a textile designer. Born from a blend of imagination and practicality, sparked by the curiosity of an embroidery machine and the determination to make it pay for itself, Coral Tusk has since grown into a signature brand. Trained at RISD and raised in the Ohio Valley, Stephanie developed a unique style by translating her original pencil sketches into embroidery while retaining their hand-drawn quality on natural linen backgrounds. Blending storytelling, illustration, and craftsmanship, her textiles bring artistry and imagination to everyday life.
So, Marcy, are you excited to have Stephanie on?
I am. What's interesting is I have the fortune of knowing Stephanie for a long time, almost since the inception of her brand, and I've got to watch it grow. And so it'll be interesting to talk to her about it because I know a little bit of it, but it's always interesting to hear like someone else's perspective on it when you have this idea of what it was, this amazing success. And I think we always think of things as becoming overnight successes, but as we all know, they never are. There's always different challenges and different things that come into play. So I think her story is an interesting one, and I'm excited to talk to her about it today.
Me too. I'm excited to actually meet her as well because I've always been a big fan. I bought a pillow years ago, loving it at a shop in San Francisco when we lived there. And I finally got to meet her and ask her this one question, which will come up in our interview about my pillow. So I'm excited about that.
No, I think it's going to be great. The other thing I didn't mention before, which I think is really important, is I think it's really difficult to create something that's distinct and truly unique and sets itself apart. And I feel like she's really done that with her brand. When you see it, you know it. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to talk to you about all things Coral Tusk. We've been friends for a long time, and I've watched your business grow, and I'm excited to talk about it with everybody and share it with everybody.
It's such a joy to be here. Thanks for asking me to be a part of it.
We know you grew up in rural Ohio and that your family played a role in your creativity and kind of your work ethic and how you see yourself. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So like you said, I grew up in rural Ohio, and I had parents, both my mom and my dad came from really poor upbringings. And so both of them are naturally really resourceful, as is the extended family. So like my mom's mom, she could make something out of nothing. So like you have whatever you have laying around, she can fashion that into like an amazing toy that can entertain you forever, and then for my dad's family, they also had nothing. And he was just an incredibly hard worker, started his own business, it built a really successful construction company and built really beautiful homes. And he wasn't, like he didn't finish high school for sure, but he was able to do a lot because of his absolute focus and determination. So I think both from the creativity side, I got a lot from both parents, but not in the traditional sense. Like they certainly weren't fine artists.
How did you end up was it working with your mom and, like you were saying, making something out of nothing? Is that kind of what spurred you into that?
Well, I think with my mom, I think the greatest gift she gave me was just a total, like a spark of joy and a spark of awesomeness, meaning like she could be awe-inspired by something so simple and something that most people would just pass by and disregard as a moment or something really beautiful in nature to observe or whatever it is. But she really had a way of noticing and acknowledging the beauty in all things. And she also was just like so encouraging of my imagination. Like I have brothers that are twins, but they're 10 years younger than me. And so I grew up basically as an only child and she didn't work. And so she was like my best friend, my playmate. And like, she never told me no in terms of like, not in terms of discipline, but in terms of like imagination. So like, we want to have a tea party. We want to like, I think that something I found in the trash is actually a real thing and has emotions and feelings and like treat it like a human, that piece of trash is now a human. Trash can sit at the tea party and gets served actual hot tea, So she just really allowed me to not be limited in terms of what I thought was real or possible,
Yeah. Well, before college, you took a gap year, and for most American college or high school students, they don't do that in the U.S. But you decided to take a gap year, but you worked as an apprentice at a stained glass studio.
Yeah.
And so, how did you get that, and what did that teach you?
Yeah.
Before heading to college.
So, some people did take a gap year and they went to Europe. Or they did something really cool. I was like,
yeah.
I don't have anybody to go to Europe. So
I can't look at those European stained glass, but I can make one.
But I can learn something. Yeah. I mean, doing that was really important to me because it was one of the few creative jobs I could get in Ohio. And it was something that I really wanted to learn. I'm not sure why I even was interested in stained glass, but I was. And it was a really helpful way to spend time because I was learning something new that I didn't know anything about. I was apprenticing and working in a store. So I was learning how to do something, but also like understanding a little bit about retail, not a ton, but some, and interacting with people in that way. And it really helped give me enough of a platform to think about glass as a medium in general. So that when I did apply to college, that was something that I had in mind as a potential area of study.
And was that your first introduction to like an artistic process working there?
No, because so I went to like a regular suburban high school, except for my very last year, my senior year, I switched to this school called the School for Creative and Performing Arts. That was in downtown Cincinnati. And it was like a huge deal. And I was only able to go there for 1 year, which was really atypical that they would accept somebody in only for 1 year. Cause it was like, at that time it was grade 4 through 12. So amazingly, I got accepted and I was able to go there because I studied a lot of art in high school, but my high school was very like football cheerleader, it was like really not like I had a couple of really good art teachers, but it certainly wasn't like helping cultivate you to like go into the arts, like it was like, so my last year for high school, my senior year, I switched to that and studied. I'm really focused on art and gaining a lot of skills. I had really, really good teachers at this high school for creative and performing arts. And one of those teachers, they were all really great, but I had one teacher who was just phenomenally good and really, it was like one of those times where if you have like an amazing experience with a teacher where you feel like they really see you, for the first time, and it was like, oh, like she gets me. She gets the whole deal, and was able to really, I think, mold me and give me like certainly the education, but also the confidence to pursue my natural abilities. And I certainly would not have done that had I not had, I think specifically fur.
And textiles was your major.
Textiles ended up being my major. So when I first went to Rhode Island School, so after my gap year, I'm making stained glass windows. I applied to art schools, and I was like really not, I wasn't even going to apply to RISD because it just felt so far out of reach. It was like, it's super hard to get into. It's really expensive. And I was like, I wasn't even going to apply. So 3 days before the deadline, I thought, I'm just going to do it, right? Which is like, I'm going to apply, but I only 3 days. So for the RISD application is actually really robust. You have to make 3 18 by 24 pencil drawings and submit them. Like the slides, by the way, I'm dating myself. Like the slides for your portfolio had to be just so. I ended up sending my application in and I got accepted and I was able to go, which was amazing because I got a bunch of grants and stuff because I was the only person to go to college. So I was able to get a lot of scholarships, merit-based, but also like Pell Grants and stuff like that. I was able to go. Your first year of RISD, you take a winter session class. And that winter session class is supposed to help you choose your major so that you don't switch majors, right? So I chose to take glass blowing because I had made stained glass windows. I really like the glass blowing was fine, but I was like,
I'm sticking to glass.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not, no, like, this is not, like, it's breakable. Like, it's really limited. What am I going to do? Like, am I going to have like a store, in Delaware on the coast making like, who knows? Like, how's this going to wind up? Like, as a profession? I don't think so. So at that point I was like, I'm definitely not going to do glass. So I thought, well, I'm going to do furniture design because furniture is a beautiful combination of utilitarian, but also finery. Well, furniture was not a major at that time. It was only industrial design. So for my first sophomore year, I started in industrial design. That was not a good fit. I took off the second half of the year. I went back in textiles because my roommate had gone into textiles and I was like, this is amazing. I can't even believe that this is a major, And so I switched and it was amazing.
But then after graduation, you moved to New York and then you got a job directly into the textile industry. How were those early experiences and how did you do it?
There was a really nice relationship between the mill that I got a job at because my mentor, now mentor, then new boss, it was Michael Cook. And he was this just phenomenal individual. He is a phenomenal individual. But at that time, because he was also a RISD grad and like sort of a similar, he and I share sort of a similar like scrappy background. Like it was like a huge accomplishment to be able to go to RISD. And then he's just enormously talented and had carved out a really special place in the textile industry that has his signature feel to it. So he had a relationship with RISD where they would come and interview people who were going to graduate. And so I was able to interview there and I got a job before I graduated. So my very last day, I turned in my paper, I got a U-Haul, I drove, I stayed at my now husband's aunt's house in Long Island City in Queens, and then started work the very next day. Michael Cook was so amazing because he really took me under his wing. And so he exposed me to opportunities that I was like a feral. I mean, I'm still a little bit feral, but like at that point, I just I didn't have any like life skills. Like I didn't know how to deal with people or clients or how to be like who I was as an individual that was like a working person who had a job. And so it was really, really amazing because he directed me by leadership and by showing me how to conduct myself in the world. And so it was incredible that way because I did get to go travel and to do these, different client meetings. And he exposed me to all these different things and trade shows. Like there was one at that time called Decaset that was in Brussels. And so I got to go there. So he really exposed me and allowed me a lot of different unique opportunities that I definitely wouldn't have gotten otherwise. But then the India component came later after I left that job. I started working for an Indian mill that was based in India, again, the design studios in New York. And so I would go to India twice a year for a month at a time to design collections for basically the same client set, but it was just a different type of product because it was chiefly silk.
If you're enjoying the show, one of the best ways to support it is by following, rating, and leaving a quick review. It only takes a second, but it really helps people to find the podcast. If you have questions, ideas, or suggestions for future guests, we would love to hear from you. You can reach us through our website, alifecreativepod.com, or find us on social. And thanks as always for listening. So Stephanie, while working in the textile industry and traveling to India, you started to imagine, that there could be a business here. Can you share that, how that idea took place and when it started?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So it was sort of not where we are today is not where I imagined when I thought, oh, maybe there's something that I can do in India. So where it started was I had always done hand embroidery. So like no matter where I would go for my entire life, I don't know why, I would always just have a piece of fabric and a bag of embroidery floss. And I would just make sketches of things. So like people's dogs or animals or homes, whatever. And I would make a small fabric embroidery of that by hand. So it was just something that I did instead of like watching TV or whatever. So on one of the many trips to India, I had insomnia, of course. And so I thought at the time, I'm going to hand embroider a game. So I had this game called Memory when I was a kid. It's like a game that has like two of every type of photo or image. And they're all upside down, then you make matches, right? So I decided in this insomniac phase, I'm going to hand embroider a game that's all nautically themed A to Z. So I was doing that. And then I thought like, this is going to be 52 pieces, right? There's 26 letters of the alphabet, 52 pieces. And I'm going to have to make a container for it. So like, this is just not, there's no way that I can do this all by hand, right? So I was looking through Martha Stewart magazine and I saw a photo of her sewing room. And I thought, I know that there's got to be a machine that can do what I want to do. So I was obviously in the textile industry. I know about commercial embroidery. I know about the machines that are out there. But what I didn't know was, is there a software that exists that allows me to basically draw my exact drawing of where I would make this hand embroidery and then have that translate that would be scalable in production. So I was able to find this machine. It was a tabletop machine. It's a Husqvarna. It was super expensive. I was like, I have to pay this machine off. This is a crazy investment. So while in India, one of my really good friends, she used to work at an embroidery production place in a mill. So I knew that she had that background. And I also knew that she was just really savvy and very good at like troubleshooting and just like really on top of stuff. She's super, super smart. So one day on the bus to the mill, which was like over an hour, I just said, hey, do you think that we can find somebody that would make just like really small production, like 12 pieces or something of this idea? Because at that point I was like, I got to pay this machine off. So I'm hustling, trying to sell like onesies or whatever is like readily available that I can make at the Brooklyn Flea, right? That's my grand plan is just to pay off the machine, certainly not to have a business. But what the seed that sort of like cracked open and bloomed was, oh, this person can help me figure out how to do production, right? And so at first it was just really small, but it grew then into the business that it is today.
You were working with producers in India to do embroidery. What was the machine doing at home?
So basically, the thing that was amazing about the machine is it has this software, right? Because most people think like, oh, you must do this in Illustrator, or you must do whatever. But it's just this piece of software that allows you to create the exact embroidery file stitch by stitch, right?
The beauty of the machine that I got, my tabletop machine, is that the software allowed me to save that file with the extension type that the large production machines reads. So it's sort of like if you don't have Adobe and you can't open a PDF or something like that, it's sort of like that. But the software allowed me to save it in the right extension to be scalable so that it's the exact same file without compromising or without having to be digitized or reinterpreted in a certain way. And that was the whole magic. So it can allow you
to do more complex things that you couldn't do otherwise, and to kind of really capture the quality of your hand-drawn work. Is that?
Yeah, well, because I'm making it, rather than like, oh, here's this, I want it to have this type of feeling. Can you interpret it this way? It's like, no, it's these exact marks that I'm choosing to make in this exact way. And then the beauty of it is that it's scalable because these larger machines, they don't have to compromise. They can read that file exactly. So there's no difference as me doing it on my machine or plugging that same file into a large machine. And that was
that sample is very accurate when you make it.
Totally. Yeah. There's no difference. Zero difference at all.
Yeah. So how did you go about thinking about, I want to pay for this machine, and then you figure the scalability part out? So how did you how did that kind of spur the rest of it?
I started to do the Brooklyn Flea because I was like, it was so exciting at that time. It was like brand new. It was interesting because the response that I got was really positive and really encouraging. So by that time I had started to make like different types of products, mostly pillows, because I'm a horrible seamstress, like really, really bad seamstress. Like
I love that you admit that.
Oh, like, I mean, not even, I have no patience. I have no skill to be a good seamstress. It's just not in my DNA at all. But I can make like a rectangle, right? Which is a pillow. So I was like, okay, I can do pillows and I can do things on ready-made items. Because I felt encouraged by the response I was getting, I thought, well, maybe I can sell to a few stores. So I made like a dream list. I had 3 names on the list. I had Acorn Toy Shop, John Darien. So, which is like, anybody wants to sell to John Darien. That's like your number one dream, right? And then I had Takashimaya, which was a Japanese department store in New York. So once I started making pieces, I showed them to this amazing store called Acorn Toy Shop and on Atlantic Ave in Brooklyn. It just so happens that she is really good friends with John Darien. So she was able to get me introduced to him through like a very long series of events. But I ended up being able to meet with him. And if at that any time, no matter of all of time since he opened to now, if you're in John Darien, you're going to get seen by every set of eyes you want to get seen by. Like, he is
a lot of buyers.
I
have a feeling a lot of buyers would go in there and they get inspired by it. They see the products, it's very, the specialty of it is really, it's amazing.
Exactly.
But I also like that you did that thing where you visualized the places you wanted your stuff to be. Like you visualized where your audience was, which I think is really an important thing to do as an exercise. I think that's really smart.
The manifestation of it, saying, I want to be in these shops.
So sorry, I didn't interrupt. So back to John Darien.
It seemed so unattainable. Like it seemed like just a dream to be able to do that. And then when it actually worked, it was just like, it was like amazing. It was like the most empowering thing that could have possibly happened anywhere along the way. So that was really the most important launch pad for that. And then we started to do trade shows. And then by the time, so I was still working full time while growing the business really slowly. But it was after we did the New York Now show, which was we were in the handmade section. And that was in 2011. And that really gave me the confidence to know that I had a legitimate business. And then it took me another year to leave my job. But basically that trade show really helped solidify us as a business and as a contender in the marketplace in general.
In terms of the production that you had initially set up, was that able to easily scale when you had the way you had set it up? Was that something where that was part of, because you had that whole background, were you able to think about, okay, this can scale as it needs to?
So I definitely wanted to have production. I wanted to be confident in the production capabilities that I had established with my Indian friend, partner before doing the trade show. So by that point, I was able to run through enough to know what our production capacity could be to be able to meet orders.
I want you to tell us a story about that presentation with John Darien. And what did you bring? What did you present? You said you were a little nervous, but tell us a story.
Okay, so I was super nervous because, I mean, for those of you who know John Darien, he has a very dry, he's super sarcastic, he's very dry, he's crazy, crazy smart and really, really funny. But if you don't know, then you don't know. Like, you don't know how to read in between the lines or like into it, like, what's he actually thinking? Because he's real poker face, right? So I finally get this meeting with him, and I'm crazy. It's like meeting like a super celebrity, right? My husband comes. So in the early days, my husband, Chris, did all the things with me. You know, he did all the trade shows with me, went to my meetings with me. He helped me get everything set up. So here's Chris and I. It is like I have bags of just literally everything I've made to that point, which is a lot of, it's like, you know, when you're in like elementary school and your parents come and you show them everything you've ever done that year, you know, you're like pulling out every piece of construction paper collage. That's me, right? But with John Darien. So we go into the back room and I'm like laying out everything. And it takes a while to get through like the mini thing. It's like hundreds of designs by that point, right? And he's not saying, I mean, one word, no nod, no smile, no nothing. There's literally no expression, right? And I'm like, oh shit. Like I'm feeling so bad, you know, like just, this is just an absolute nightmare. It's like the worst thing that can happen. Everything is out of the bag, right? Nothing. And then he just says, would you have something to write with? And I said, yeah, sure. So then he places a crazy big order, you know, and he's got a lot of ideas, right? So at that point, I had this like a book of designs that was just like little, basically fabric swatches of all the different designs. You know, he was like, well, what if you made this into a card? So like, that's how our embroidered stationery came to be, is that he said, well, this would make such a beautiful keepsake card if you were able to put these on paper, you know? And then aprons and all different pillows. And so he ordered so much stuff. And at that point, because this is pre-production, so at that point it was like, oh, this is amazing. This is like groundbreaking. This is like going to put us on the map. And oh crap, like I have to make all of this stuff on my one machine, color by color, after work, right? And on weekends. So, but it was like, it was the coolest, most amazing thing that has ever happened. Like, it was like,
But he didn't know any of that.
no,
He didn't know the.
no, like, because, you know, you don't want to be like, you know, it's like you don't want to overexpose yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Also, that presentation was probably the perfect presentation for him in hindsight. Like,
Oh, yeah.
for anybody else, you would be like, this is crazy. But for him, that was probably the perfect solution.
Totally. Anybody else, they would have been like, this bitch is kind of nuts and like, I'm overwhelmed, you know? Like,
He's probably like, do you have anything else?
totally. He's like, that it? And I'm like,
Oh my gosh. Another amazing audience I feel like you've built too over time is you have a huge audience in Japan.
our first introduction to the Japanese market was with this store called HP France. And HP France was owned by this really great guy named Taka, and they had 90 stores across Japan, and only a few of them were home centric, so deco stores. The rest of them were fashion and accessories and stuff like that. Because Taka always went to John Darien, he knew about our line only from John Darien, right? Because he would come from Japan, go there, kind of select brands. So he said, he sent me an email and said, can we come to your atelier? So the joke was like, my atelier is a section in our bedroom, in our living room, where shit is all over the place, right? So I'm like, well, I don't really have a studio, but like, sure, right? So similarly, right? So I have to take the day off work. They're going to come. So it's like 6 Japanese people who come to my Brooklyn apartment. And I mean, I have stuff literally laid out on our bed, on our couch, on like hang on the TV. Like, it's just it's everywhere because I'm like, I don't even know how to show this stuff, right? Or like, I don't have a space to do this. Do I rent a, like, you can rent like an office then? Like, that just wasn't a thing, right? So here they all come to our Brooklyn apartment with stuff all over the place. And that's really how we got introduced to the Japanese market, was through selling to HP.
Right now, Coral and Tusk, you've been around nearly 20 years?
I mean, I got the machine in late 2007, started selling in 2008.
Yeah.
We really hit sort of, I mean, so the other big launching point, one of the most important things that happened to us as a business, was being in Martha Stewart in that February 2013 issue. So at that point, it was like, that was really what made me also help transition out of my day job and into doing Coral and Tusk full time. Was like, well, we're going to do a photo shoot, you know? So like, okay, well, I better get a studio because like my Brooklyn bedroom's like not gonna cut it, and I better like, I'm doing it, right? So in October 2012, the shoot happened, and then that was published in February of 2013, and that really like got us on the map, you know, in a way that was really important. So in a lot of ways, we started in 2008, but we really started selling like much more significantly in 2012.
And then you had this sort of lack of a better word, a lifestyle sort of question for yourself, is whether to stay in New York, or you did a big move.
Yeah, we moved to Wyoming, which we again, like, it's, you know, it's funny, like, I mean, I'm a very like, I'm a tightly controlling person, right? So I always think that I have total agency over my destiny, but the things that you don't know when you don't know them are really significant. I never intended, when I bought that machine, I never intended on having this business, right? Or certainly not running it now, you know? And then similarly, when we started looking for a second home in Wyoming to spend summers here, it was really, the criteria was like, oh yeah, like, let's, you know, we certainly can't leave New York. Our businesses are there and our lives are there. But when we finally found our home here in 2015, we bought this house. When we got here in 2016, in June, we were like, whatever it takes to stay, we're staying. And we just love, love, love our lives here.
And so then you have workers still in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have you know, businesses that make your textiles in India.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's what amazes me about your sort of business model, is that you haven't given up your personal happiness, you know, of a place with a larger place, less expensive, and still be able to do all of this. And I think that's really commendable.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks. Well, yeah. And our, all of our orders ship from here, from Wyoming. So there's a town that's south of here called Pinedale, by where we live. All of the products are shipped from India to Pinedale. And then from Pinedale, Wyoming, our team here fulfills all those orders. So like, if you're somebody in Japan, or you're somebody in California, or wherever, or you're a store, all of those orders ship from right here, which is great because I really wanted to be able to still maintain a hand in the product. If it's really important. We'd worked with a third-party fulfillment for a little bit, and that just really didn't work for the level of high touch our customer expects. There wasn't the opportunity for customization, or for, oh, this person orders really frequently, let's send a really nice note, or let's throw in an extra thank you gift or something like that. It wasn't possible. Whereas here, we're able to really maintain a very holistic approach, from, you know, everything to how something is designed, to how it's marketed, to then how it's received by each customer.
And what happens in New York?
We do everything in-house. So like, our photo shoots are in-house, led in-house, like all of our web design, all of our marketing, all of our social, like all of our ads, like, you know, all of that is done with our in-house team and customer service office.
And I think it's interesting because your process is still exactly the same. You still draw every piece of everything. So as you've expanded, do you feel like much has changed in that sense of your process, or how do you feel about?
No, the only thing that's gotten different is that I have gotten so much more elaborate in the designs. Because at first, everything was really linear and very, really simplistic, and not a lot of I mean, it was detailed in that the process itself is detailed and the embroidery is detailed, but the level of embellishment involved per topic is much more involved now. And so that's great, but it also means it's way more time consuming from every standpoint. So like from me making the embroidery file to the time that it takes on the machine, because one pillow might have 100,000 stitches, which takes
Wow.
a really long time. So and like that also means that things are more expensive. So in some ways it's it was sort of bound to happen, like once you get more, you're gonna get more involved the longer you do something naturally. But sometimes I wish I could like put the genie back in the bottle a little bit, like
Yeah.
Well,
this
the
too much.
one thing I love about your company and the imagery is I bought a pillow several years ago, and I'm gonna hold it up,
Wait,
and it's this.
oh, very
And
hungry bear.
yeah, the Very Hungry Bear, is
Yeah,
that what it's called?
yeah.
Okay. So then I bought it because I loved it. And I bought it in a shop in San Francisco when we were living there. And I thought, there's got to be some kind of allegory or some kind of sort of lesson in this. It's a bear with a raccoon and a fox in its sort of stomach area having tea.
Yeah.
So then I went to a trade, I think a show that you had some employees working at, and I'm like, I just love this pillow. Can you tell me more about this image? And they're like, not sure. But what I love about it, and during our prep call, is that your images are so unique and they're almost dreamlike, that they're coming from your head, and it doesn't necessarily need an explanation to it. It's just, and I love that idea that this is almost like a dream of somebody's that was illustrated on this pillow, and I absolutely love it.
But it almost
Oh,
comes back to what you were saying with your mom in the very beginning of the podcast about like pulling a piece of trash out and telling a story and making it an animate object. And I feel like it's kind of hearing that part of it makes a lot of the other things that you do now make even more sense, which I love. It's great.
oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some things do have a big story, and it's funny. Like sometimes I'll go back and like I did this for a little while, but I stopped because it's just like too much to deal with. But I was doing these behind the designs videos, and what I would do is re-look at the design and tell the story behind it, and I would have forgotten so many details that I added in at the time, because at the time, like I go in like all the way. It's like total focus. I spend a lot of time thinking about every design and like building out the details and making sure that things are not just arbitrarily put in. Like whatever details are there, I want them to be really intentional, and I want them to be, even if nobody ever knows about it, I just want it to be like holistically thought about, an
Yeah.
approach. So like our stargazers pillow, it's like, oh, I forgot like that all their uniforms had these different things, and all of the constellations are in the summer night sky here, and like there's just all of these things that you forget, like, oh my gosh, this is actually really detailed.
or it's like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh wow, I really did think about that fraud.
Oh God. Well, I know that there's a lot, the landscape's kind of challenging right now with tariffs and all the retail landscape shifting and all that sort of thing. And how are you kind of focusing the business and kind of what's next, and how are you approaching the challenges to kind of keep moving things forward?
Yeah, it's challenging for everybody with the tariffs, and I think that some people are going to be acutely aware of that, and then other people it's going to be, sort of like a slow burn. But no industry is untouched. Ours is particularly challenging because we do everything in India, and I did a collaboration with Sunbrella several years ago, and we did a really in-depth research project to see if we could make our products in the United States. And what we found with the entire Umbrella research team backing it was that literally the machines don't exist in this country to be able to do the types of production that we do. And, of course, during COVID, again, I'm like, okay, we got to figure out how to make stuff in the States, but we simply can't. We really value who we work with in India. Like I trust our partners there as much as you can trust anybody, like we really value that. So I also just don't want to not work with them because I really enjoy our relationship and they also really benefit from it too. It's impossible to avoid the tariffs, and the tariffs right now from India are 50%. It went from 10% to 25% quickly, and then almost immediately to 50. And what's challenging is that's an enormous amount of money. Like no business can just absorb that margin and be profitable in any way. So for us, what's really challenging, and me as a small business owner, is at what point do I decide, it seems like 50% sticking around for a while, it's not going to be 25%, do a blanket price increase, and what does that do? Like how many people do you eliminate slowly or quickly? And then what if it drops back to 25% in 2 months? Then, let's say 400 people order something during that time where their prices were higher. Well, now you feel really bad because you've dropped your prices again, but maybe they bought it with a surcharge that they don't need to. So it's so challenging when you don't know what's going to happen, one. And then two, it's a lot of money, and we don't have an alternative, and I don't disagree with the premise of bringing manufacturing to the United States at all. Like I think that that's a great idea, but it's absolutely impossible for what we make. If you had to do it, I would have to buy the machine from who knows where, I don't know where, at whatever tariff, who knows what. Well, there's not parts, there's not labor, there's not service, there's not anything. And when you look at, like, I don't even think I could find somebody to do the types of work that is done in India in the United States. For every single thing is made, embroidery on the machine, when the color goes from one section of the design to another section of the design, there's a thread that jumps, right? So after every single piece is embroidered, every jump is hand trimmed before it becomes anything. Like, can you imagine me finding somebody in the United States to do that job?
You are navigating it with a plan, and that what I think the one thing about your product is its timelessness. I deal with a lot of home tabletop and home goods as a prop stylist, and I can place your designs probably in a lot of rooms because of its palette, just because of its subject matter, and because of the idea of embroidery. The patterns are really striking, so it really goes in a lot of interiors, and I think that's that alone is an accomplishment, that to have something timeless that someone buys.
Well, and I think
I love that.
you have a highly collectible thing. I know people who collect your work, and I think that's the most honor, like the biggest honor you can get from people is when you have an audience that is like a fan and they just keep adding to what they already have. And I feel like I know that you have that kind of an audience, which I think is great.
Yeah, we're really, really blessed with what has happened, both with like the team that I'm able to work with, that, my employees and our production partners. But our customers are like really nice, like we have genuinely kind, interesting, thoughtful people that buy our things. And what's nice is whatever it is about whatever we make does evoke some emotional response. And so a lot of people end up sharing, their impressions of things or their feelings about things, or that it has a memory associated with it, or they bought this for this person because of this very special thing, and so we end up hearing so many really amazing stories from our customers. That is like what a privilege to have that.
And you're getting to that age now where people will have been raised as kids having that in their lives and will remember it, which I think is really interesting as like something that will kind of become like a family heirloom passed on.
Yeah, it's really nice.
So one of the things we like to ask everybody at the end is, what's the best advice you've ever received? And in turn, what advice would you give to somebody else?
I think if I was going to like distill it down to like what's the most important single helpful piece of advice I ever got, I would say that it was that teacher, Miss Caroline Hoffman at the School for Creative and Performing Arts, telling me to apply to RISD, because I feel like without that, the arc of my life would be totally different. Like if I wouldn't have gone to RISD, I don't think I would be where I am today, genuinely. For advice that I would give, I think like for myself, what I keep telling myself recently is that everything is impermanent. And like I really started telling that to myself in ways that are usable both for in a positive way, but also in a way that feels like in the positive way, what I mean is everything is impermanent. So it's really important to maximize your experience. So, all you have is now. So how are you going to maximize your now? You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, but it's not always going to be there. So if that means, you know what, it's a beautiful day, I'm going to take the day off and go hiking, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to whatever. I think like just making the most of moments and being present is really important. But also when things feel really overwhelming and challenging, that's something that I find really comforting, is like everything is impermanent.
We do this one part where we have inspirations, something that's inspiring you lately.
Yeah.
And who wants to go first? Who should we ask?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah. How about
Okay.
you, Marcy? What's inspiring you lately?
Oh, so I was going to do another Instagram one, but I'm going to change my mind. I was in Zurich last week, or the week before last.
As you do.
I can't even remember what day it is anymore. I went to the National Museum, the Landis Museum there, and they had a room full of an arc full of rings from time. So you could see them from like BC rings all the way to current rings. And as someone who kind of incorporates jewelry into my work, it was really fun to look at the different types of rings. And there were these, it made me think of my friend Fritz, who we did an interview with as well, who talked about micro mosaics, because there were micro mosaic rings and there were interesting different types of cameos. And I got to look at different ways rings were set. And so that.
Were most rings metal, even from the very beginning?
Yeah. Most of them were definitely metal. The ones later, they definitely got some, as you got into the 20th and 21st century, you got more acrylic like that. But no, it was really interesting.
Wow. Cool.
I kind of like the ones that look a little more like hand hewn.
Mine is an Instagram account that I'm kind of really into now. Right before you go to bed, you're sort of those relaxing videos that sort of calm you down. And it's an account called I'm gonna butcher this, but it's called Zart Art 02. And he's an artist and painting and drawing, and he does these simple renderings with a marker. It could be with pencils, but they're like just these techniques of drawing an orange slice from beginning to end is so relaxing for me. I don't know what it is, because I'm always been fascinated. When I go to a museum and I'm looking at those, those still lives with allegories of like flowers and whatever, and I'm staring at the bead of water on a leaf. And to see, really trying to get as close as I can to see how they rendered it, because I've always been fascinated with it. But if you guys have a chance, it's called Zart Art 02, and it's my favorite thing right now.
So for me, so last week I took my own advice. It was a beautiful day, and summer is fleeting here. So I'm like, I got to get as many hikes in as possible. So it was Wednesday. I was listening to this podcast about super AI. And I got like really freaked out, because like I'm not like a techie person. I don't really get it. I know it's important, but I don't know what's important to get. So anyway, I was like, listen to this, and it really like made me feel frightened. But then I'm hiking and I'm in the Tetons, and I remembered the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, and there's been 5 mass extinctions. And so as I'm walking and I'm passing by these amazing granite boulders that have so much like texture and color and dimension and pattern, and they're so like inspiring in and of themselves. But then what I really got to thinking was, this rock has been here for 2.6 billion years. This rock that I'm walking by, and has been through 5 mass extinctions. And how incredible, to be walking by that and think like this rock is like, it's like crazy old. Like,
and we'll be there when we're all gone.
And we'll be there when we're all gone. And like, there was something that was really comforting in that, and also very like humbling and inspiring, because you're like, oh, like everything is bigger than us. And I know that that's like, sounds like such an obvious statement, but there's something that is so inspiring in the powers of nature, you know?
Yeah. This has been such a treat, Steph. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so
thanks so much for asking me on. It's been really nice.
I love hearing your story.
Thanks so much.
That was a fantastic episode. All the things that I thought about her business are true. The heirloom aspect of it, the timelessness is what I really. Artwork is very impressive on these textiles, and I love that it's a global business and that she's employing a lot of people here and abroad, and I think that's very commendable in design.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too to see somebody see how different businesses can be, how they grow, like out of what idea, out of wanting to make a game and then problem solving that, and then being enthralled by a piece of equipment that you want to invest in, and then figure, I think knowing those types of things, it's interesting to get that story and to know how she was able to kind of bring all of her creative imagination and her skills and really build this amazing company that
all by which doing it on the side.
Yeah, I always said that to her because I had known her when she was still working full time, and I was working at Martha at the same time, and I just always thought it was amazing because she had hired somebody, and then she was able to kind of leave her day job and then start this full time. So I think she's a good example of somebody who, like she said, is risk averse and is able to kind of steadily build something in a really smart way.
If you want to learn more about Coral Tusk and Stephanie's work, be sure to check out the show notes as well as our website, www.alivecreativepod.com.
Our producer is Chris Gangus. Our theme music was composed by Pierce McIntyre, and a special thanks to all the amazing people at East 10th House Studio.